Hi, welcome back to the Trusted Podcast.
Today's guest is a stand-up comedian, financial planning director, and soon-to-be author. This promises to be our most controversial episode to date.
We're joined by David Lloyd of Lloyd Co. He's got some very interesting opinions. So grab a cuppa, enjoy the content. David, hi, welcome. Many people will not know you spent many years in comedy. Talk to us about that and how's it influenced the growth of your business?
I'd use the term comedy lightly, but I did do Edinburgh Festival about 4 years in a row, so my own set. But it did, so shall I tell you how that come about? Ultimately, when I set up the business, I wanted to get a client bank, as you do. And we've grown from referral, but initially we did a lot of seminar stuff. But you find as you're doing seminars, the content is relatively boring in this profession, and it shouldn't be. But, you've seen people speak. There's some good people out there, but some proper dross. Just really boring. People's arms folding, phones coming out. Lucy, present company accepted, very, very good public speaker. And I'm not just saying it because you're there. There's a lot of dross. So what I found myself doing was trying to make people laugh in the audience, not to be a smart ass, to get engagement and to get the point across. And I found myself enjoying that more than I was enjoying doing the seminars. So I thought, right, scratch the itch, do a bit of comedy. So I did, and it worked for a while. You reach a point, I think, as a comedian where you have to make a choice. Most of them are single, living out the cars. You go further and further afield as you're doing more and more gigs. And I had to decide why family, growing business, or try and chase a comedy dream. So I gave it up, so to speak. But it has influenced it because I think what you get with an audience is honest feedback with laughter. You can't really fake that. And as a comedian, you are, I'd say you're quite vulnerable, putting yourself out there and talking to people. People might say you're needy. It might be an ego thing. I don't know. Trying to make a room full of complete randomers laugh. I don't know why I felt a need to do that. But it did. But the point is, it leads in then to authenticity. So if I'm sat with a client, I think this profession needs, a client can tell if you're not genuine, I think, and if you're not authentic, and you've got to be more than ever. It's a real human thing. And it taught me that. I would say it really did change how I say things to clients most advisors wouldn't say. But it's all in the interest of getting them to where they want to be. And it's memorable because I think we can be forgettable. And if you're trying to change people's lives, you shouldn't be forgettable. So I've totally forgotten what the question was.
And you said
I think I've answered it.
You said when we spoke at an earlier date that you've never had complaints, but you just said that you speak to clients in a way that others wouldn't.
When did I tell you that? That's out of date now. That's well out of date. No, it's true. We've set up practice in 2009. We've never had a complaint. And the reason is, as soon as you get, any slight little bit of disgruntlement, if that's a word, we get them in, we give them a cuppa, and then we bury them in the cellar. That's a joke. Well, so, see, it's an honest reaction. You can't fake it. Just put pressure on you to laugh, and then you'll laugh. Good. That's how it worked in the audience. That's not actually true.
Spook me for a minute then.
No, in reality, again, if you're authentic and the client knows you're doing it, everything in their best interest, yet we're humans and we do drop the ball, we do make mistakes, but you can normally quite easily fix them pretty quickly. And if the client knows you're coming from the right place, they're quite forgiving. So yeah, we've never had a complaint. Touch wood. I say it to clients, new clients as well all the time, that I think it's something to be proud of. But we always have an admin in the meeting, and whenever I say it, the admin in the meeting is like, don't be saying it. People always want to be the first. People always want to be the first. So the only thing I do worse than saying it in a client meeting is saying it in a public forum like this. So there you go.
Well,
so
I've done that now as well. Now. You set out your stall. And I suppose since 2009, you'll have seen the profession of advice has changed somewhat. Hopefully modernised for the better in some areas, but there are some areas where you still think there are room for improvement, I suppose.
Yeah, I think it's part of the structure of the book, and it wasn't intended to be, but it's evolved into that. 2009, I started off late 1990s, and it was Wild West. I was an engineer on the Friday, a financial advisor on the Monday. You read FP1, you go and meet your first client in the afternoon. That's shocking. It was literally throwing numbers at it. I joined the company, about 20 other people joined at the same time. A year later, 2 of us was left. But a ton of policies that they'd sold to the friends and family were in existence far longer than the advisors were. And that was the world back then. That was a strategy. Yes, it's evolved, but I still think the solution's part of the problem. And people aren't calling it out. I'm going to call it out. I wouldn't trust the majority of the profession to advise my mum. She doesn't need it, she's dead. But if she did need it, I wouldn't trust the majority of the profession. And that is kind of the reason, has become a big reason for the book to exist.
You can tell your jokes are landing well when you can hear producer Greg in the background.
He knows there's business potential here, so he's like, oh, okay, I'll laugh at that.
So a little bit about the book then. So I think, I won't steal your thunder on what it's called, but I think you've touched on something that's going to hopefully bring some much needed attention to those areas of improvement. Do you want to talk a little bit about what that looks like?
Yeah, okay. So it's called Dead Happy. And the idea is a bit of a Scouse term. And the idea is, that I believe clients are the wealthiest they've ever been. If they get any amount of wealth, they underspend and underlive. And it should be no stone unturned, table wipe clean, live the best life you can, and go out without regret. And that ultimately is the aim of the book. It's changing mindset, first and foremost, and then effectively tooling the client up to go out and get advice. And that's where the solution being part of the problem really become more and more evident as I researched the book and as I looked around and thought, this needs to be called out. It's like, let's say you couldn't cross a road, and I've written a book on the yellow cross code, you could just green cross code. I don't know. I've written a book on the green cross code. You can just read the green cross code. Doesn't matter. Point is, I've taught you how to cross a road, and then I've taken you to Spaghetti Junction, Birmingham, blindfolded you, twist you around 30 times, and let you go. I can't send people into the profession and just say, go and get advice. That's a holy grail. It isn't. The holy grail is out there, but you've got to know how to find it, and that's what it's about. Was that the question?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so with the book, I think you touched on a couple of areas as to why we're probably seeing people dying wealthier than they ever have been before. And I think that there are maybe some areas of advice that contradict what your book is saying. And that's probably one of the biggest areas. Why do you think there's such a big disparity between maybe what your view of the world is and then what a lot of the other advisors' world are? Because there's a lot of speakers on dying, spending your inheritance, but maybe none that have gone into the detail that you have.
It's getting the emotion behind it and being able to deliver it up proper, authentically, and really mean it. That's the important bit, and that's difficult. There are speakers that there's plenty of. This is the thing, right? There's plenty of great advice, but there's too much good advice, and good advice is worse than bad advice, which I will go into if you want me to. That's out of the book. There's plenty of people can be out there getting advice and think they're doing the right thing, but the majority of it's commercial, vertical integrated structures that are focused on the profitability of the business first and the client second, even if they say that's not the case. It is, you've got to commit a ton of time into the client to change the mindset. That takes time, and it takes feeling and emotion. You can't rush that. We've still got two-stage sales, to use that word, sales process. While it's a sales mentality, you're going to have these issues. We do not have a sales mentality, but ironically, sales come because they need what we're providing to get them there quicker, more efficiently. They need the products that we have. But don't focus on that. Focus on the client ultimately and mean it 100%. And that's the bit that I say isn't really there, largely.
Would you describe yourself then as more of a financial coach? Would you describe yourself in that light?
I need a descriptive for me because I don't know. Well, that sounded a bit pratty, but say I said pratty because I can't swear.
You can swear if you want.
Can I?
Yeah.
Shit, that's good. Well, maybe it will. I don't know. Do most people you have on swear or not?
Well, it depends how prim and proper they are.
I like it because it's a good way of explaining what you mean. What was the question, Lou? Sorry.
I said, would you explain yourself as more as a financial coach? Because obviously a lot around what you have to do is to help clients understand, like unpack their goals and objectives, but then potentially motivate them to go and spend the money, to go and live the best life. So yeah, would you say you're more of a coach than a planner?
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah. The financial planning's the easy bit. Tax efficiency, diversification. If you're independent, as we are, you can. There's no solution you can't find, and you can tweak and change when reality changes. You move with it, and we tweak and change clients all the time to make sure we stay on course. That's the easy bit. The mindset is the hard bit, because even when they're in the office and they skip out, ready to go and live the best life, what happens is the world happens around them, the media, which is all negative, and they'll come back a bit downtrodden and back to where they were because life's done that to them. So it's getting the lasting change, and that takes time. So yeah, it is coaching. It is coaching, I suppose.
Do you think that mindset's a generational thing?
Yeah. Again, the book alludes to quite a bit of that. You got all different types of, what's the word? It's generational conditioning. So you got all different types of conditioning. So generational, yes, because we're only a couple of generations, or even one generation in some cases, away from in the war rationing. Yeah, rationing. We're only a few generations away from that. So it does come down to generations. And people say, well, people are different now. We're more consumers. We're not the same anymore. But I've been doing this a long time, and the children turn into the parents. Yeah. As they get older, they might not be quite as bad, but not far off. And people have often gone from rags to riches to rags again. Well, they haven't gone to rags, and that's the fear. So you can be really quite somewhere in the front or the back of your mind. If you've had scarcity ever in your life, you're terrified of going back there. And that for me is a big reason why people underspend as well. So yeah, generational conditioning, short-term media conditioning, historic conditioning. Fight or fly. We're terrified of. We see money as security, and we're terrified of effectively running out of it. So we underspend it.
Retirement in itself is a relatively new phenomenon, isn't it? I think a lot of people wouldn't have thought that until you actually think about the practicalities of it. I think you said it was 1900-something.
1908 was the first state pension, which we don't call old age pension because there's negative connotations. We ban the word retirement as well. There's too many negative connotations about that. It's a brand new, outdated concept. 100 or so years ago, we were wealthy, and that was fine. Or we were poor, and we worked till we died. We've now got this brand new concept that didn't last long initially. But now as life expectancy is creeping on and keeping us alive longer, we can be in retirement longer than we were working in theory. So it's not retirement. So again, the book reinvents. Oh, keep saying book, don't I? It's like I'm a professional at this. The book reinvents the term completely. So that's one for you to look forward to.
Well, it's interesting because I look at my dad who retired in December. So he'd done 33 years at the same business, some odds and sods before that. And I've watched his mentality towards money shift within 6 months, because there's this period of growth when there's another salary around the corner. And so I think you could be a bit more frivolous with that. And with him and my mum go on mad holidays, and then suddenly it's like, shit, now what? How long will this pension and it'll be fine,
but that's incredibly common, and that is where your income's gone from there to there. And we treat pensions like, they're like fairies at the end of God, like that real kind of thing, because they've been there for so long and not be able to access them. That's your income now going forwards, but we don't look at it like that. So spending goes from there to there. So income goes from there to there, so does spending. So you pull back on the accelerator, and everything's finite. And clients will say to me, "This has got to last me forever." Well, it hasn't, has it? Because we'll all be dead soon. So it's talking about stuff like that. Bringing our mortality really into the picture, because we will be dead soon, and prior to that, we'll be incapable of spending it. With the orthopedic chair of regret, where you sat there, you got plenty of time to ruminate, and you're still well enough to check your values online, and you're normally the wealthiest you've ever been at that point, but you can't either physically spend it or emotionally spend it, or both. You just haven't got the ability to spend it. And that's what a terrible place to be. And you see it all the time, and plenty of time to that once in a lifetime holiday that you did, could have done it 10 times, and you can't at that point. And that for me that's the crusade. It is to change that for as many people as we can. And that's our responsibility as a profession.
Do you see that all people need advice?
I would say so, yeah. I think it's a weird one because it's chicken and egg. So a lot of practices will only see you've got X number of hundreds of thousands of pounds or whatever. We kind of will see everyone because commercially, you don't know who they know, but equally it's getting on the ladder. So I think people massively benefit from advice in all different ways, not just financially efficient, tax efficient, diversification, all the obvious stuff. The psychological side of it, that's the side they need, but that's not a side all advisors provide, of course.
What about the younger generation? So obviously we're talking about the generation that's not too distant from rationing. What about the likes like me and Will building our careers? If we were your client, like what would be your biggest advice to us at this point?
That's a good question. Didn't put that in the preamble. So
we're just curious. This is free for us. Free consultation.
I think it's getting on the ladder. So you're seeing the longer you save, 10 grand invested for 30 years and way more than 10 grand invested for 10. So the earlier you can start, but at your stage in life, your average client might be 50, 60. You can project forwards from there. At your age, I think you've just had not been stalking you, watched one of your podcasts, so I've done my research as well. You've just had a baby girl?
No, that's Marcus.
Oh,
it's Marcus.
That's bad research.
My wedding's a month today. Marcus is
congratulations.
Thank you. Marcus has just had a little girl, Sophia, and Lewis has just got engaged. So you were somewhere along the spectrum.
I was along the lines. Yeah, fact-finding skills. That's a perfectly good example. At your stage in life, you don't know what the future holds, so it's hard to put hard and fast, plans down. But absolutely, getting a portfolio up and running, getting something, pensions, because you can't access them for forever. So you should be in them, and you should be, time horizons that long. So you probably take more investment risk. Not a recommendation. You probably can. Need to full fact find first. I've already got the fact that you've got dependents. You haven't. So yeah, getting on the ladder at your stage. That's the important thing. As much as you can, but it's all about balance. It's about living your life for today as well. You've normally got higher expenditure, mortgages, kids, which are expensive. Getting married, which is also expensive.
Terrible financial advice, get married, by the way.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it when we booked all of the suppliers 12 months ago when we paid the deposit, and now they all want the rest of the money. It's like, I'm trying to pay for a wedding here. Why are you coming in here and wanting all the rest of the money? It's like, just let me off.
Well, it's not too late. So, I've got a philosophy on marriage. I can say this because my wife does know it. So marriage was created when we lived to our mid-30s, right? Bit of a land grab or whatever it was, security. And romantic and lovely, and you fall in love, obviously, with it goes without saying. However, we now live mid-80s, so it's a bit of an outdated concept. So what I would try and bring in if I was running the country, which is not this podcast, but what an idea I would have, and it sounds clinical, but it's not, it's romantic, 5-year renewable. Like you can get some life cover, that's 5-year renewable. If a marriage was 5-year renewable, well, no one's taking it on for granted. You both agree to renew in 5 years. You have a massive party because there's something to celebrate, right? And if you don't, or one of you doesn't, well, you say goodbyes. You've already got the split. It's the end of divorce lawyers. You know what the split is. Done. Gone. No one's taking anyone for granted, are they?
Well, I need to make sure that I do get married before that law comes in, because my missus will be off after 5 years. If she's got an easy out, don't give her one, David.
Yeah, but that's kind of the point. Yeah. You're making it sound like a trap.
I know, yeah.
He's making it sound like a trap, not a marriage.
Scared the life out of me. No, she is. She does want to do it. She's told me.
And she wants to do it forever.
Yeah, exactly. Well, what's the alternative?
5-year renewable. Let's move on.
So I suppose some of the bits around the book, you spoke about some of the steps that advisors could take. So I think that as part of the book, it's one, shining the spotlight on some of the areas that people aren't necessarily getting it right. But one of the bits about coaching others from the profession to help clients remove the guilt with spending money. So what are some of the practical steps that if you're an advisor or if you're a person who's going through retirement could start to implement to start to take away some of that pressure?
Okay, so 2 parts that really. The client side, they know what they're looking for. They'll know what great advice is, and they'll know if they're not getting it now. They'll know. So people don't know where they are, really. Don't know what they want. Not enough. The great unknowns. They don't know what they want. They don't know how much they've got because the profession's terrible at explaining what they've got. They don't know what they need in the future to provide for what they want, and they don't know how long they're going to live. So if you get all those things together, well, they end up not spending the money at all, don't they? So from a client perspective, they'll know what they want, what they need, where they're at from the book. It'll give them all that. So then it's about, right, go and find the right advice. And then on the advisor side, people have to put more time in. There's a lot of places now, advisor practices, IFAs, that do all the psychological side, but it's finding them. People don't know where to go. 95% plus of our client bank are referrals because people don't know where to go for advice. Again, that's on us as a profession. So they've got to want to do it right rather than just a sales conveyor belt, which is what a lot of it is. But again, my point, I'm not just slating the profession, I'm slating a lot of it. There's loads of good advice out there, but I want the client to be able to find that. And that's the key, to be able to find that. But then the provider of that advice, the advisor, has got to, there's loads of training courses as well for the psychological side of money. It's huge now. There's just not enough people doing it. So they've got to do it, and the structure's got to allow them to do it. Whereas if the owner of the company, if the organisation is more about, making this and not, we'll make sure the client's all right. And you can do finance advice, make sure the client's financially all right, but that's where good advice is worse than bad. So
the educational side of it's so important, isn't it? And like coming back to the language, we did a seminar not too long ago because, as you know, we specialise in inheritance tax at my business, and just helping advisors change the language when they're speaking to clients from there's an inheritance tax bill to how do you want your legacy to look was such like a pivotal impact. Like, do you find that should be coached more into the financial advice profession?
Yeah, that along with spending it. There's a lot of legacy planning, which is planning before you're even dead to leave as much as you can. But, gratitude lands on the living. If you spend it while you're here, one, reduce your IHT liability and possibly your care home grab, but spend it and create the memories. You can't take the money with you, but you might be able to take the regret of not doing it. So
one of my colleagues always says the first thing people when they get to retirement should do is learn how to ski, and it's spend the kids' inheritance.
Yeah.
I have to say that to my parents. I think I keep referencing the give with a warm heart, not a cold hand line, I think, and they feel, and I think, again, this is generational stuff that you were talking about earlier, David, that because my parents, they didn't inherit anything from their parents, give or take the house that wasn't particularly life-changing for them, that they feel obligated to leave us something. And I'm saying I'd rather see you spend it and be happy, because hopefully by the time that you both kick the bucket, I'll be all right. And the money that we would inherit maybe would be thinking about for our children, whatever else it would be. But it's like you're saying, it's the generational stuff where you go from one layer having not loads. Like they didn't grow up skint, but there was an element of scarcity in that sense that they've then brought forward, which you only see realised at the point that you retire. It's mad.
Well, your dad will be feeling that scarcity now because he'll remember that. Maybe even not consciously, often subconsciously. And that's one of the reasons why we stopped spending, because the fear is he's always had his income, that's gone. So then he can see, and you haven't got time to start again now. So you just you can see how it's self-fulfilling.
I think it's because, my dad's dad had a final salary pension that when he then died, he died younger than we were expecting, so didn't really get any benefit out of that. And then my nana basically got a portion of that, and therefore, so you spend all of these years working, and suddenly there's basically nothing to show for it until you sell the house, which is that's where the finite pot comes in, about trying to coach and educate about, if you leave that bit invested, that will go up, and then you can take away the rest of it if you want. So you don't need to be at zero necessarily to still have a really good time.
But the challenge of the book, right, is, have you heard the 4% rule?
Yeah.
So it's evolved a bit, but it's effectively spend 4%. I really don't agree with that rule, because that's about underliving. So the average performance, I say, is 5-6% a year over a 30-year period. If you're averaging 6 and you're spending 4, you're getting 2% growth a year on year on year. That might mean you can't retire for another 5 years. It might mean, I've used the word retirement like that, you can't be financially free for another 5 years or whatever. Or you could double your income and go from 4 to 8% income. Yes, you've got to manage this and look after it year on year. 8's a lot to take. However, if it's averaging 6, you're going down 2% a year. Let's say they've got enough asset, that means you're going to run out of money when they're 104. Let's say we've done that cash flow. So you either take 4% or you can double your income and live the best life ever. And yes, your money's going to go down, but you've got to be all right with that, because so is your life expectancy. And then you reach a point where you can't spend it anyway. on the 4% rule, you're going to be the wealthiest you've ever been. On my rule, well, you'll run out of breath probably before you run out of money, as in you're probably going to live in that example to 104. And if you're not going to be you're going to spend it. I was behind a woman in Tesco a few weeks ago. There's other supermarkets available, but Tesco, and she must have been 104 if she was a day. And all she had in a trolley was cat food and hair lacquer. So at 104, that's all you need. So you don't need the same, yes, inflation, absolutely, but you don't need the same spending. You won't have the same spending capability at 104. So the logic is, and my logic would be, spend it and be comfortable with it going down. So long as you've got an advisor holding your hand all the way through it, making sure we're still on target. And if that all goes to pot and you run out at 79 because you've overspent and everything's gone wonderfully and the market's been terrible and you're still active and you're still spending, well, you retired at 58, you've got 21 years worth of growth in the value of property.
Yeah.
Take equity release out, and you can do that on a monthly basis now. You're taking equity out you haven't even got on the day you retired. There's 21 years worth of growth later. So there's loads of ways to look at it.
Much more dynamic. Do you use any pieces of software within your business that like you could recommend to other advisors?
Yeah, so tons. So we did use cash calc. So mainly, cash flow modeling we're talking about there. Again, any advisor that doesn't use cash flow model, and there's plenty, I don't know how they're doing the job. You don't set off in your car, going somewhere, stop half an hour into the driving and put the key in the postcode and then go in the right direction. You've got to start off with structure. So if you're not cash flow modeling, you're not. I don't know how you can advise. I just don't know how you can do any of it. But yeah, so we're using cash calc currently, but we are looking at, can't remember the name of it. There's another one that's really more dynamic, to use that word, that we are moving to. Cool. FinCalc. I'm not doing the research on it, but I've seen it and it seems really good. But cash calc has stood us in good stead. Again, all cash flow models are wrong because there's too many assumptions. So review that every year, as in the individual client's cash flow model every year. And that's the best way to keep it accurate. Are we still okay? Are we still on target for our objective? Do you need to spend more? And the answer is often normally yes to that.
You've been writing the book for some time. I know that you've had a few
before you two were born.
Had a few iterations of it. How would the narrative of the book change if legislation changed tomorrow that they removed inheritance tax bills, for example?
It wouldn't really. I've been really careful to not focus on that type of thing because the rules will change all the time. So inheritance tax, if that changed, great. Well, then you can leave more to your family and whoever you want rather than the government. Great. That doesn't fix the problem of you underliving and not spending enough and not doing the things that you want to do. And want's important because people will spend money on what they need, not what they want. So it's about changing that mindset too. So it wouldn't change. If I linked it to stuff like that, I'd be out of date. I have to write again then. It's already took me 8 years. It's like,
that's it.
Forever.
Think about the book sales of a second edition.
Well, I've got ideas for more. There will be more. If it works the way I would hope it will, it should do well.
Really
There's not
exciting.
been a book written like it. I will say that.
Well, once it's out,
created my own genre. Because if you create your own genre, you're top of that genre.
you'll be all over the speaker circuit after this. Be careful what you wish for.
No, yeah. I'll be bottom of the genre and top of the genre in one fell swoop. So yeah.
I suppose the kind of final couple of bits just on kind of running the business side of things, and there's opportunities and risk. And I suppose one of them, 40 staff now at Lloyd Co.
Yeah, across the group. So diversification is vital. So we've got the IFA practice, we've got employee benefits, insurance services, trust and estate. Mm-hmm. Separate limited companies, I've got co-directors, because they're not my area, in the rest of them. And we're all operating under the one umbrella, really. Yeah. And the idea is SMEs, medium businesses, we can help them in every area. So it's all, hate the term one-stop shop. I can't believe I just said it, but we are kind of
not a one.
All-encompassing.
All-encompassing. So do you then, especially on the IFA side of things, feel a responsibility to share your wisdom with the next generation of people coming through Lloyd Co. to make sure that they see the world through a similar lens and have the information that you kind of maybe wish you'd started with? Absolutely.
And my son Joe is a massive benefit. Well, they all are beneficiaries of that, but Joe is, because he's 24 now. He's been with us 8 years. I didn't get into profession until I was 27. So he's got a great head start, and it's in his genes and all that stuff. So I do, mate. I've been saying things on here I wouldn't say to a normal person on the street for fear of sounding like a prat. But I'm not bothered. Don't edit it out. I'm all right with it. What was the question? Oh, yeah. So we like to, there's a lot of bad habit in the profession. So we have got people with experience, but they're few and far between that we want. There's a lot of bad habit out there. So I'll sooner train them up from scratch. It's a longer game, but they're far more likely to be doing it right and just have my bad habits rather than the professions. And that's worked well. So we've got Natasha, Jess and Joe who have all come through that route. And it does take a while. I was seeing my first client 3 hours into the job. They're 4 or 5 years before they're actually given advice. Jess has been a bit quicker, but she's really good, much brighter than Joe. But
Sorry,
she's not,
Joe.
and she's not one of my kids. So yeah, she's doing really well. But so is Joe. They're all doing well. Every one of them, right? Every one of them are doing really, really well. Is that my camp? Yeah, they're all doing well. But what was my point? Yeah, so Joe and Jess are very much doing it in the way I believe it should be done. And Tash, very, very much so. And I think that's really important because, again, there's a lot of good training out there, sales training, but they're not being trained enough in the bits that's the most important. And that ain't the sales.
Really exciting. I can't wait to read the book. And for our audience, as like a leaving remark, how should they feel after finishing your book?
Motivated to do something. So there's a lot of books in this genre. Well, not in my genre because I've created my own, but in the actual genre. So I've only recently looked at the two main ones, both American. Morgan Housel, amazing. Psychology of Money and The Art of Spending Money. 10 million copies sold. And Bill Perkins, Die with Zero. Both brilliant books. Excellent. Both very American. Terrible accent, but they would be. Change the dollar signs. When you publish in the UK, get your editor to change the dollars for pound signs. What's that going to cost you? Anyway, the point is, excellent books, but they don't give the client the track to move forward on. They are very much, and they're excellent. If I get anywhere near remotely like the success they've got, I'll be over the moon. But the thought-provoking, it needs to be action-provoking, and that's what this is. And they've changed people's lives massively. So that's what I hope to build on. But they are amazing. That wasn't slating them. I didn't slate them, did I? They're really good, both of them.
Really, really good.
They're American. They're never going to hear this.
Watch this space. Well, David, I just want to say a massive thank you from everyone at Trusted and everyone who'll be watching this.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Hope they've enjoyed it watching it.
Absolutely roasting out there. There's nowhere I would have rather been.
Let's go and get in a beer.
Love that. Thank you.
Thank you. Cheers.